Look at you.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm secretly ancient and I don't know how to do anything on posting on Instagram.
You'll be amazed at how many talented people there are who do this miraculous stuff and can't get on this live.
This is why I kept you.
Wait, say that. I can't hear you. Say that again.
You were my first Instagram live experience. I knew this was going to be problematic. This is why I let you know.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here.
Well.
Did it. Figured it out.
Good job. So how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, considering, hanging in, making stuff work. How about you?
The same. You know, I prided myself on being COVID proof as a business.
Yeah.
And the first few months, smooth sailing. Now I am in a mess.
How so? What genre of mess are you in?
I'm trying to move I am moving my yard.
Oh wow.
And like doing these
Are you in
conversations.
Yonkers?
My shop is in Yonkers, my yard is in Hartsdale.
Okay.
And I have over 1 million board feet of lumber.
Oh my God.
So I've been there milling slabs for 8 years.
Oh wow. So you're established.
Yeah. So having these conversations, right? I'm talking to people and there's all these revelations and there's things that come in my head. And I'm like, my overhead's too damn high.
Yeah.
So I need to move because my yard is $5,000 a month.
Okay.
And I'm like, I need to move and I need to do it now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a nice silver lining that coming from these conversations, you've learned like a little bit more about what you should and shouldn't be dealing with.
Exactly. So the plan is to do it. David, yes, you can help me get some lumber off my hands. The plan is to do it right, but to do it now because in a couple of months it's going to be cold.
Yeah, that's
and
very true.
I don't want to be outside moving a whole bunch of stuff, and it's cold. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it gets dark earlier.
Absolutely.
So I put this on myself, and it's a lot. It's too much, but I got to do it. And plus, the space that I'm going to, it's crazy. It's beautiful. It's much, much better.
Really?
And I didn't realize I was in a bad space.
Yeah.
Until I saw a better space.
Isn't that funny how that works? I was in a very similar situation. I mean, I just was like, oh no, this works. I'm willing to like not be on the table saw while someone else is on the bandsaw because you can't move around each other until I saw another space. I was like, oh, I don't have to do that? That's spectacular. Let's try that.
and that's what happened. I was in there head down, grinding it out for 8 years. And I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Until I saw a better place. I'm like, damn, this is what I deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. I've earned this. It is nice.
So,
I've been in a similar situation where it's kind of like you can make do with stuff for a really long time, and obviously the thought of moving once you've been like established and you have your routine and your own like you know where everything is, and that's a lot of work.
It is.
How far away is your new place?
It's Dover Plains, 60 miles.
Okay. So it's a move.
It is a move. It's not that bad, but it's a move. It's different than 6 miles.
Yeah, it is a lot different than 6 miles.
Yeah, but I can stretch out and I can do business.
That's great.
So let's get into this.
All right.
I'm going to ask some questions.
Okay.
We're going to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
And then we're going to get into what intrigues me most about all of the woodworkers that are in your position having an all-girl band. That is so damn cool.
Yeah.
That is so damn cool.
I know. I think it's cool too. I'm glad you agree. Yeah.
Oh, wait, whoa.
Okay. Sorry.
We're not ready for that conversation yet.
Okay.
All right. So, if you had a chance to go to the moon, would you?
I would rather go to the ocean, the depths of the ocean. Is that an option in this scenario?
This question is about the moon.
I have this ongoing argument with friends, like, what's more interesting, like outer space or the depths of the ocean? And I'm always ocean.
But
I'm always on the ocean side of the argument.
yeah,
Would I
both
go
are equally dangerous.
probably equally as dangerous, but there's stuff to discover in the ocean. I feel like there's not a lot of like living stuff to discover without going way too far in outer space. So, I mean, I hate to be the like safe like naysayer, but I don't think I would go to the moon if I had the option. I think I'm good here.
Well, I wouldn't either.
I've watched Apollo 13 like one too many times to want to do that.
Do you think there are other living beings out there?
Oh, for sure, without a doubt, 100.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I think, as mostly Americans, we think that this is it.
I find that funny though, because the odds, like if we just look like generally statistically speaking, like we can't be it. Like
Exactly.
I mean, the odds are they're slim, I know, but there's also so much out there that it's just like, of course there's stuff out there. It would just take so long to find it.
Yes.
That's why I'd go to the ocean instead.
And yes, some of those beings may live in Bushwick.
Yes, exactly. A lot of them are here already.
UFOs.
It's funny that you brought that up first and foremost, because I have a serious UFO obsession. I grew up on the X-Files, so I'm like completely hooked and obsessed with the concept of like, ETs. I am like reading everything that comes out of there whenever we discover anything new, but I'm interested in observing from here. I'm good here.
Read it in a book.
Yeah, exactly. I'll read some Carl Sagan, I'll get my fix, and then I'll just stick around here.
With some champagne, please.
Exactly. That's an ideal evening, actually. You just described for me.
What word or phrase do you overuse?
What work phrase?
Word or phrase do you overuse?
Word or phrase do I overuse? Okay, so I retired this one only because I've moved to New York, but I'm from Massachusetts, so wicked got a real heavy rotation on my
got some miles on it,
my
right?
conversation. I think I got a lot of flack for it when I moved to New York, so I've like I've retired it. But I kind of want to bring it back because I'm not like as ashamed as I was about using such a regional like slang term. So I might try wicked hard to bring it back.
You know what? One of my best friends at Four Seasons Hotel, Monica, Bijan is her name. She would always say, she was from Massachusetts, from the Cape.
Yeah.
She would always say wicked.
Yeah. It's so versatile.
Yes, yes, always. And I didn't know that was, I just thought that was her thing. I didn't know that was from Massachusetts.
Oh, it sure is. And I also really like the weird history of the phrase too, because it obviously comes out of this like weird Puritan Salem sort of like old New Englandy thing, which I was obsessed with growing up. I had a Wiccan phase in high school that I went through. So, I watched The Craft one too many times and just like really went down a went down a pagan rabbit hole. But yeah, I've retired it, but I'm thinking about bringing it back, and that might give me more. This might give me more courage to like work it into my regular lexicon again.
Yes, the world has been put on notice.
Yes, thank you. Get ready.
What is your least favorite thing to do?
I think my least favorite thing to do is probably to organize stuff, which is bad as someone who needs to keep a studio and a business running, because I will put it off indefinitely. So I kind of have to surround myself with people who like to do organizational tasks, because it turns me into a 6-year-old, and I have like fits about it. So, are you organized? Okay.
I try to be, but if you're working and you got stuff going in the shop, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, especially if you have like a couple things going on at once. It's very hard.
It is, because we usually have 8 to 15 things going on.
Yeah.
And I put the dates in that they're due, and then a guy walk in with some cash.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy job.
Jump that list. Yeah.
So that does not keep me organized.
Right. Yes, I agree. I understand that it might not be the most productive way of working, but if I have all the things I need scattered on the table in front of me, then everything's just within arm reach. And I know I could put them away at the end of the day, but in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to pull them out again tomorrow.
Exactly.
So I'm bad at cleaning up. I'm bad at keeping tidy. And
so do you make your bed before you leave the house?
No, because I'm just going to get in it later.
You said that way too fast.
I know.
You didn't even think about that.
I'm kind of a domestic monster, actually. I like cooking, so that's what I do at home. But I will go grocery shopping and I'll cook. And in my head, that leaves all of the rest of the household tasks to someone else.
Right,
not sure that's fair.
Right, whoever cooks shouldn't clean.
That's what I'm saying.
That's in theory.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always go that way.
I know. And it's also like, I try to make it so that whoever cooks doesn't have to clean, do laundry, Swiffer, mop, vacuum.
Oh, so you always cooking. And that could be anything from, does a sandwich count as cooking?
Sandwiches count. Microwaving something counts. Ordering delivery counts.
Okay, so your most favorite thing to do is cooking, obviously.
I really like cooking. Yeah, I do. I think it's actually kind of similar to making stuff. I mean, it is making stuff.
It is making stuff.
And I have friends who are chefs, and there's a very similar mentality to people like us who make things.
It's an art.
People who cook things. It's kind of intuitive, and it's creative, and it's experimental. And I think it kind of scratches the same itch in your brain that making things does. I even like baking, which I think is a lot different because you have to follow a lot of instructions with baking, improvising. Yeah, totally. And I think that's why I like it, because it's scientific and it's really fun and interesting.
I don't know if you believe in science, but it's scientific.
Isn't it sad that you have to ask that as a question now? What do you think about science? Yeah.
Exactly. What do you like to cook?
Well, I'm kind of a pasta and gluten fiend. I'm obsessed. So it has to be, it's most often gluten based, so it's bread or pasta based. And then I'll improvise the rest.
So you don't have that skinny white girl diet?
No. Oh my God. I can't. I started my stomach would kind of hurt fairly regularly enough. I was like, if I have a gluten intolerance, I'm just going to power through. I can't, I don't know what to
Do do okay. So I'm gonna get a little technical. Do you
Okay.
make your pasta from scratch?
I've done that during quarantine because, like, what else are you gonna try? You know, you're gonna try to make your own pasta. I bought some like too expensive pasta attachments for like some of my kitchen stuff. I've done it a couple times. It's really good. It's like better than the obviously freeze dried pasta, but um, I'm also like in tandem with cooking. I also choose the path of least resistance. So I usually just like buy that pasta, but I'll make my own sauce. I have a very limited like vegetable garden, basically only like cherry tomatoes and basil. So it usually is
Nice.
garlic based cherry tomato sort of like
Yeah,
thing.
I can eat marinara every day.
Me too. Me too. For the rest of forever. And I also
Yes.
grew up with a mother that treated like garlic as if it were a vegetable. So she would put like if like it called for like 3 cloves, she'd be like, "Oh, 7 or 8 will do." So and luckily I have a partner who like doesn't mind if I sweat garlic after dinner, so that helps a lot.
Yes. So what is the one thing your partner will want to change about you?
Oh, the clean thing, for sure.
So that's real.
Oh, that's very real. He's super tidy. And like in my head, I'm like, oh, this is great. You're super tidy. I'm a slob. We're going to work out really well. But I think in his mind, he's like, maybe you can work on this. And I'm like, no, we have a good situation. I don't know what
We're
you want
fine.
to say. Yeah. I'm working on it. I really am working on it. Like after we stop talking, I'm going to take the trash out.
What makes you tick?
I know this is kind of stereotypical, but I'm very creatively stimulated. I really.
Can you explain that?
Yes, yes. Well, I started off making sculpture, so I was making kind of non-functional objects for a really long time, and they weren't specifically like conceptually deep. That wasn't really my lane of art. They were very formally based, so I would really like to use whatever materials were in front of me, as long as I could kind of like make this thing that was really interesting and exciting to me. So I really like, I know this sounds odd, but I really like watching nature documentaries for stuff for creative stimulation, because I mean, whenever I think about making something and then I go to like the Natural History Museum or something, I'm like, well, nature's already done everything way better than I could ever do. So like, why don't I just like imitate that for a little bit and see if I can be just as excited by something like that? So I really like to watch nature documentaries and get really like excited about like kind of natural phenomenon and weird natural formations that happen, and try to steal a little bit of that, like maybe formally for stuff that I make. But yeah, I'm always kind of like, I get really excited when something just generally speaking in the world strikes like a creative nerve, because then I'll be like, oh no, I have to, how do I capture? How do I write this down? How do I like keep this thing? Because I think you really have to kind of use that motivation pretty quickly after it hits you, you know? And so I've trained myself to be like, not to sound like hokey or anything, but I've trained myself to be a little bit more open to when something like random or kind of arbitrary strikes me as like creatively interesting. So I'll like stop and make sure I like take pictures and like live in the moment for just a second, so I can kind of capture it mentally. So when I am in a position to kind of execute on that, I can make something that I can carry that feeling around for a little bit longer.
Okay, cool. What irks you the most?
What irks me the most? Are we talking, I mean, currently speaking, there's a lot of things that irk me the most. Are we talking big picture or small picture?
Both. Give me big and small.
I think like generally speaking, the lack of empathy that we have walking around in our country right now. I can't really understand that. I am particularly empathic, so I am like all the stuff I'm reading and seeing, I like really ingest and take it deeply to heart. So when I see people who aren't capable of empathy at all, I'm confused and eventually angry, and it's just especially right now, there's no shortage of things to be like irked by. So I think that I know
or inspired.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true, because the counterpoint to that is like there's a lot of things that can be fixed, and there's a lot of movement to be made where we are. And I do try to cling on to the kind of optimism of the moment, which is like we just flipped over a really ugly like log, and we're seeing all of the like terrible stuff underneath, all of the really dirty, gross like stuff. And I think we can't just like ignore the stuff that's coming out. We have to really do something about it. So yeah, I'm trying to like stay present with all that stuff, but also because I have this sort of like I carry all this stuff around with me, there's like I'm always trying to temper the self-preservation with like operating in the world and making sure that you're like the people you encounter, generally speaking, you have a good relationship with and a good exchange with, because you don't know what they've been through, especially now. So yeah, it irks me when people can't really carry that empathy with them. And I understand not being able to do it every day, but I think that it's really important to assume that someone is going through stuff that you don't understand. So yeah, it bothers me when people can't come to that conclusion, I think.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
What sound makes you happiest?
Oh, rain, thunderstorms, for sure.
Where were you yesterday?
I was listening.
It was crazy.
Some of them I'm pretty convinced I had a hand in making. You know, if I'm in a particularly moody like place in the day and it starts to thunder, I'm like, yep. That makes sense.
Yeah, yesterday was bad.
Yeah, it was a lot. But it was short-lived and really like torrential, which is my preference. I love that. I grew up, like I said, in Massachusetts, but way western, so very rural Massachusetts. And we had a screened-in porch growing up. And my mom and I would watch thunderstorms on the porch. And it was just like, it's the happiest memory for me to watch nature's extremes. You know, I love it. It's very calming. I love falling asleep to rain and thunder. So yeah, that's my happy. I record when it's a particularly good, where in Mass, the Berkshires, Great Barrington, Massachusetts, that area. When it's a particularly good thunderstorm or a particularly loud roof that it's raining on, I record the sound so I can listen to it later. It like helps me fall asleep.
Wow.
Yeah. Big
Cool.
fan of rain.
What sound bothers you most?
What sound bothers me most? I feel like I'm going to upset some people, but I don't have any children, so I have to say kids crying.
Let me tell you, you're in the correct place. When you don't have any kids crying does bother you.
It bothers me.
The minute you have them, you fight for that.
I know, and I know I'm gonna change my mind. I know, like,
oh, you will.
Kids,
yeah,
I'll change my mind.
You're going through the proper course.
Yeah, it just like it ticks a nerve in me, and I feel like I have to do something about it. And I'm obviously not allowed to console other people's kids, so just sitting there without doing anything drives me insane.
and plus, they probably don't need to be consoled. They're probably just being a kid.
Exactly. So I can't be the creep that tries to make their day fix their day. I have to just endure. So yeah, I would say that one gets me pretty good.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
Well, I mean, going on a theme here, I think I could have done good as a marine biologist. I feel like a lot of girls say that growing up, either veterinarian or marine biologist, but I really think I would be great at that. I would like to go like real deep into the ocean in those like crazy submersibles that are super thick and like discover new creatures. I think that would be.
Yeah, I had a very close friend of mine who was a diver.
Yeah.
and they would go. Um, he was from Jersey, and they would go off and dive. He told me when they went through the subways that were buried underground,
Oh, very cool.
and he drowned.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I've never done any scuba diving. So all of this being said, I am like a land lover, I've never I go to the ocean. I love the ocean. I watch things on the ocean, but that being said, I do not know how to scuba dive. So but I'm well aware of all the risks involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But
they were very. It was he, his wife, his mother-in-law, and his father-in-law. And I worked at Four Seasons Hotel for 20 years, and they would always come in 4 times a year, and the mother would always bring me cookies.
aw, that's so sweet.
And we were very, very close. And they came in once, and I'm like, and
Oh,
yeah,
that's awful. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, yeah. I think it's interesting because like we have a dangerous job, like maybe
can
not
be.
like high, like probably it would be tough to like fatally injure yourself on our job, but it would be very easy to like injure yourself. So I think
Very
like
easy.
yeah, so I think maybe because I have a job that risk is kind of a regular thing that you experience, and like before you get on any form of machine, you have to really like acknowledge that what you're doing. And even when I get into like a habit, when I'm batching things and I'm like doing stuff repeatedly, I have to like take breaks periodically and kind of like make sure that I'm still focusing, because once you let your brain wander, it starts to get like a lot more dangerous. So I'm aware of that sort of thing, and maybe because I'm regularly aware of that, I have an interest in scuba diving, but very, very seriously aware that that's a dangerous thing.
All right, now I'm going to respond to one of the comments.
Okay.
David DR, the chairmaker, who's in Connecticut.
Yes.
He says scuba diving is fabulous. You need to learn. He also was a big time rock climber.
Oof. Yeah.
So he likes living that
He
way.
liked it. Yeah.
With,
Yeah, I can see that. I don't have like that being said, I do not like heights, so I will not be climbing anything. I'll do trees. I can climb trees. I had this concept for a while, like a rock climbing gym, but like a tree climbing gym for adults. It hasn't happened yet. I think it's a great idea.
It could be. It could be.
Could be. Just a bunch of indoor trees for people to jump around on. So that's my idea, but I'm not much of I don't love heights, so I'll stay on the ground or go deeper.
You could also build a tree house in one of those indoor trees.
Absolutely. There's so many options. That has to be the reward for climbing like the highest and like craziest one or something like that.
What would you like on your tombstone?
Oh my God. What would I like on my tombstone? Probably something very sarcastic. I feel like I love when I see someone who's like taken a little bit of levity with their tombstone. It's unexpected and it's very exciting to me. So I haven't thought about it in depth, but I don't think it would be something entirely serious. It certainly wouldn't be anything religiously based. I think it would be like, I'll be back later or something like that, just to creep people out and think maybe, who knows? See you in a couple years.
What is it about your personality that drives your business?
I think that I really like to have very good relationships or even friendships with anyone that we work with as far as fabrication or collaboration. So more recently, because of COVID, we started working with a couple companies that helped us with fabrication because we had difficulty getting into our shop in order to do stuff. And like, you know, obviously New York stuff slowed down. It was difficult for me to get lumber and all of that stuff. So I tried to make accommodations for that. And actually a friend and former coworker that we have in common, Sally Suzuki, is my studio manager and worked with me and we found a company called Edgewood Designs in Philadelphia, and they're great at custom and more like batch design. So they're good at coming up with like a couple, like lots of stuff, and we're more like custom one-off. So they're better at like large quantity. So we started working with them, and they started doing a bunch of fabrication and finish working for us. And we also have a metal worker in the city, Arius Metal Designs, and we have a stone worker in the city, 40 Marble, and every single one of those I have like a very good relationship with. Like I know about them personally. I like to check in on them, and whenever I go pick up something, we like to have a longer conversation. I'm so curious about different methods, different materials, different like techniques that I like to understand pretty fully what they're doing, even if they're fabricating something for me completely from start to finish. I think it's important to be able to communicate and speak the same language as someone in their material, speak the language of their material. So because we work in a couple different materials, I really like to have that. Like if something's going wrong, I like to be able to troubleshoot it along with them and have a good understanding of what's going on. So I think that one of the things that I hold like dearest in what we do is that I'm able to like have these good relationships with people and more importantly, like because of that, give our business to people that I know like deserve it and are very like they're solid people, and I respect how they run their business and how they do their hiring, and I just like to keep the group of people like positive and stay like and have a really nice community of makers, because I think that helps. Like I think we're all like trying to we all have the same end goal, you know, and when it's a symbiotic relationship, it just works so beautifully. And if you can have like that nice personal relationship with people, it just makes all the work so much better.
I concur. First, shout out to Sally Suzuki, who is the best.
Yeah, Sally.
Such a sweetheart.
She told me to say hi to you personally, by the way. So
tell her I say what's up.
Officially hi for Sally.
Now, I'm gonna tell you a quick Sally story. Sally, when I like first started, she would come out in the yard, she'd just be sanding. And one time I was running around and I'm like, get in the loader. I need you to move the loader while I hold it. She was like, I'm not doing that.
She's told me this story. I know, she was just like, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
And I'm like, it's like driving a car. But she was having none of it.
She's from California. She should be real good at driving cars.
But this was a really big loader. It was large.
Yeah, it would make me nervous too.
Yeah, the tire was bigger than her.
Yeah, she is the most like phenomenally efficient person I have ever met. Her background is actually ceramics. Other than working for you, her background is in ceramics. And she was just like, she was talking about, in regards to working with you, how amazing it was. And just like, especially because of the timing regarding like after working like around Hurricane Sandy and being able to like go and see if like you can claim the like felled logs off of people's properties and stuff. And how was that for you? Like going into different people's like worlds, were they receptive to you? Were they standoffish? Like what was it like?
They were pretty receptive. That was cool. That's kind of when I first got started in the yard, when I first moved to Hartsdale.
Yep. And
that kind of took a back seat when I got in the yard, and the Army Corps of Engineers called me and told me about all of the wood that was at Floyd Bennett Field that was collected by the city and put there, that I can have it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and that was the probably the beginning of me having more wood than I needed.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So,
it's hard to not take that material when it's offered to you, and it's often like then you're in a position where you are now and you have to move shops and you're like, God damn it.
yeah. I was telling I grew in space for a long time.
Yeah.
And all we did was just mill, dry, mill, dry, mill, stack, dry, mill, stack, dry. And you're not really paying attention to what if I have to move?
Right.
Because I rent, I don't own it.
Right.
So, and it's different. You know, the landlord would want it to be partners. You know, there were signs that I should be ready to pivot at any moment.
Sure.
And
yeah.
And I was really worried. I wasn't worried about that. I was more worried about more wood, more wood, more wood.
It's free right now. It's free right now. It's free right now.
And let me tell you, right? That's just a crazy thought because it's not free, right?
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
free wood got me a $5,000 bill a month.
Right, because you need to store it, you need to mill it, you need to stack it, you need to dry it. Yeah.
Yes, you have to move it. So initially I thought, oh, it's free, it's free, it's free. It ain't
not
free.
free.
It ain't free.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very, very true. I am a scrap hoarder myself, as I assume most people who are in woodworking have some version of this ailment. So I am always keeping. Oh, Arius, my metal workers are on.
What's up, Arius?
Hi, Edwin. So I have always like they're nonsensical scraps that I will hang on to. They're weird, sentimental scraps. I will share an embarrassing story from embarrassing. I mean, maybe indicative of who have become. I don't know. We've always heated with wood in Massachusetts. So my mom's always had a wood stove, and so like chopping wood, stacking.
That's real country. But go ahead.
It's always been like a part of my life. So we would the lumber yards would always get in touch with my mom because they would have all of these cutoffs that they couldn't use for anything but would make great lumber. So she brought me she would bring me, we'd load the back of our car, and then we'd drive home. And there was this one piece of wood that she gave me, and she showed me how to like sand something rough and then sand and like lower, like higher grits and make it smoother. And so I had like a chunk of 2x4. It was like maybe a foot long, and I sanded that thing to like 320. It was the softest thing you've ever felt. And I carried around with me like it was a doll. Like I would just like have it everywhere. If I would get stressed out, I would just like give it a little rub because it was so soft. And it was just like that was my thing that I hung out with. So it's kind of funny that it's taken me this long to get back into woodworking because I only got back into it in like 2014. But back into it meaning my previous time as a 2x4 sander.
So do you still have that piece of wood?
No, unfortunately I don't. I think there was like a moment of awareness in my teenage years that I was like, I have to distance myself as far away from this wood as I possibly can.
This is not healthy.
No, it's not helping my image overall. If I'm gonna evolve as a human, I think I have to put this wood aside. Like, I don't know if you ever watched what was it? Oh my God, the log lady from someone's gonna remember it on the log lady on the Sarah who killed Palmer. Oh my God. Anyway, I was the log lady, but just with a 2x4. So yeah, I'm glad I evolved beyond that, and now I'm into actual woodworking. Twin Peaks. Thank you, somebody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kayla.
What is it about your personality that hinders your business?
Well, I don't want to answer that with like a one of those like positive things and say like, well, I can answer that. I was gonna say I'm definitely to a degree a perfectionist, so I will make sure that everything that goes out is like something that I 100% approve of. But that being said, somehow simultaneously, I'm also like, I also really need kind of quick results. I kind of don't have the patience um, I don't have the patience to really like linger with a piece for too long. So I'm kind of immediate gratification sort of person. So I need to like balance the like immediate gratification with the perfectionist, and that's oftentimes a little bit difficult for me to kind of temper those two things, because and by immediate gratification I just mean like I need to work on a piece for like 6 weeks and then I need to let it go. Like I can't really hold my attention beyond that. So like most of the things that I make, I need to be able to complete them within 6 weeks, because it'll lose my attention after that. I think that's probably a lot from when I was making art. I kind of need to be like stimulated by certain things and then like act on those stimuli and then kind of move on to something that's differently interesting to me. So someone has a question. Yes, someone has a question. But yeah, I think balancing those two aspects of my personality makes my studio practice a little complicated, but I'm figuring it out slowly, because I'm figuring out how to make work that within that time satisfies what that piece demands. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
making something that is complete within 6 weeks doesn't look incomplete, doesn't look like I rushed through it, but like I gave it a lot of time for 6 weeks and I made it perfect within those 6 weeks, and then I can move on to something else.
Yeah, and I'm sure financially that's probably the better move to make as well.
Yeah, it's accidentally a very good business move, because I'm not like lingering forever on stuff, and I feel like, because I have an art brain and not a business brain. So I think anything that I'm doing like that's business savvy, I kind of stumbled upon, and that's definitely one of them.
Cool. Who would you travel cross country with on a motorcycle?
Oh, fun. Well, my best friend Casey and I have traveled cross country in a rental car that we've destroyed, not on a motorcycle, but I feel like I can do that with her, or you, Edwin. I will consider that. Her and I have been best friends since 4th grade, so
wow.
So we've like completely grown up together and like sisters, and there's not much we don't know about each other, meaning we can kind of get mad and yell at each other. We don't often, but we can, and our relationship isn't hurt because of it. So yeah, I'd be side saddle with that girl cross country. There she is.
When was the last time you cried?
Oh, nowadays, kind of recently. Yeah, I would have to say, well, when I'm looking at the state of the world, it's pretty recently. I mean, and I can get specific into that, but like, I mean, the Breonna Taylor thing has really hit me quite hard. I think it's amazing that all these movements have been happening and all these protests have been happening, and I'm so very much in support and have participated in the capacity that I can. And but it feels really terrible that I feel like women of color are just getting so sidelined, and obviously trans trans people of color as well. But I think that's really hard for me to stomach, to see such, it goes back to the lack of empathy thing, you know, it's to see such like egregious violence and not even hold anyone accountable in any sense of the legal term. So that gets to me.
Yeah,
and that'll do it almost. I mean, there's new stories like every time they pop up.
I'm with you there. And the Breonna Taylor thing is crazy. It's crazy. She was in bed sleeping.
Yeah, I know. And
They
it was
went
the
to the
wrong
wrong
house.
place.
There's just nothing. There's nothing about it. And to just, I just think that like all of these, I'm not saying anyone are worse than, they're all absolutely awful. But for me personally, I think I've latched on to Brianna as the one that I'm really carrying the torch for, as the awful incident that I'm like constantly looking at. So that one gets me. And I think it will get me for forever probably.
Right. What was your favorite concert?
Oh, heavy turn into something that I like. Okay. Well, my first concert was Fiona Apple. And I have to say, she's still fantastic. I really, really love her. My most recent concert was also with Casey, the girl that I'm going to ride cross country with, and Sally and my other assistant, Catherine. We went to see Celine Dion at the Barclays Center.
Oh my God.
We got t-shirts, we drank way too much wine, and we went to see Celine Dion at the Barclays Center. And we were very literally the last row of seats in the Barclays Center, the highest up seats you could be, the absolute nosebleeds. And I loved every second of it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, whitest girl you know. Love Celine Dion.
And you're not the whitest girl I know.
That's good
Sorry.
to know.
What impact do
I
you
want to
want
know
leave?
that about you though. What's your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Do you listen to jazz at all?
Oh, you're asking the wrong girl.
Yeah, the Crusaders, Joe Sample was good.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
George Benson was good.
Okay.
I'm sure there are others. I went to see Journey, which is one of the bands that I love.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't good.
Not great. Oh, I have an amendment. All the other ones, sorry, I have an amendment. Hands down, Dolly Parton. Hands
Love Dolly.
down.
Dolly's a boss.
Unequivocally, that's my answer. I don't know how that escaped my mind. Absolutely Dolly Parton, 110%.
Dolly Parton's a boss. I love her.
Yeah. That was the most like, I've just never seen anything like that. The most beautiful array of humanity was at that show. Like it was a neutral zone in which like no one was angry at each other. The most different people were like laughing and sitting next to each other. It was just this beautiful moment of truth. And it was the best show I've ever been to, easily.
Now, John Jordan Woodturner. Do you know John Jordan?
Yeah, I think we're internet friends.
Yeah, he's a boss. He's in Tennessee, so he's got to love Dolly.
Oh yeah,
now,
and Dolly Parton's America. I've listened to the whole thing.
Have you been to Dollywood?
I haven't, but I'm I'm getting engaged. So Dollywood is my, once, hopefully next year, Dollywood's my bachelorette destination of choice.
Now,
Because I heard that there's a hair salon in which you can get updos to look like Dolly in the park.
well, you got to do it.
I gotta do it.
You got to do it. I collected Volkswagens and Porsches for a long time.
Oh, nice.
And there was a car show in Tennessee. And we drove up the mountains. I was in my 69 Corma Ghia. And it was late. And there was these big bright lights. It was like damn Vegas.
Yeah.
And there was Dollywood.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. I'm gonna go eventually. That's my be all end all. That's my like bucket list right now. I gotta get there.
When was the most difficult time for your business, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think throughout this has been probably quite difficult because I'm a bit, I have no problem with kind of like nose to the grindstone sort of work, you know, for a while getting my like business off the ground. I worked for other people, and I would go to my studio or my shop after hours and do that. So I think that sort of work ethic and that sort of determination has never been difficult for me. That came easy. The place that I started to have a little bit of difficulty in was once it started turning into like, I need a little bit more business acumen and business savvy in order to make this thing into like
a business.
Yeah, exactly. And I have an art school kid brain. So it's a little bit difficult for me to like focus on the numbers aspect, focus on the finances aspect, and the like kind of projections into the future, and making sure that everything is legally deemed like, you know, suitable. So that part just kind of like makes my eyes roll back into the back of my head. So once I started to have to deal with that, like that was quite difficult. And Sally has been, who we had spoken about earlier, has been really, really helpful because she's just like, she's a very curious person as well, and she's on it. She's on it, and she's curious about the kind of stuff that I dread. So we are able to have this like nice, like balance of like I can like focus more on the kind of creative, and she can help meet me in a place where I can like kind of digest that stuff. And she's patient with me, which is very important as I kind of.
She's good people.
Yeah, so that was really difficult, and I started to think a little bit before Sally kind of jumped in to help me with that. I was concerned, significantly concerned, that like I wouldn't have that sort of like business savvy to be able to make this viable. So that was tough for me. Also, at any time, like it's a blow to your self-esteem to acknowledge shortcomings. So, and you kind of have to have this like. You have to have a bit of an ego in order to keep doing stuff and making stuff and showing people. So when you're getting like hit after hit of stuff that you don't know how to do, it's really difficult. So that was tough. That was tough.
Okay. Do you have any Black friends?
I do. I actually, one of my Black friends is a police officer. So that has been an interesting series of conversations that I've had with him, because he's a detective, and he was young when he joined the force. So he actually would be on really, really dangerous things as a detective, because he was a young Black man that they would put him in situations. And yeah, he's a family friend, so it would make not only me but my entire family really anxious about it. But it's been really nice talking to him, because he has much different perspectives on all of this stuff. So when like we're all like gung-ho about defunding the police, it's been really nice to have a conversation with him about like it's not that simple, you know, it's not that basic. And I like to understand both sides of an argument before I like wholeheartedly throw myself into something. So I've been a little bit more delicate about like how I'm approaching this and how I'm viewing this because of him and because of the conversations that I've been able to have with him.
Okay, cool. So this is what we need to do, right? We need to get off and we need to get back on because Instagram only gives you 60 minutes intervals.
Okay.
So to everyone of you all who's joined us, we appreciate it. Now, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna do 30 minutes more, right? We're not gonna turn this into 2 and 3 hours, as much as I love to talk to you. So we're gonna get off, we're gonna get back on, we're gonna get into your journey, we're gonna get a tour of your shop, and we'll be right back. So let's get off and get back on.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Ooh.
So you learned that pretty fast.
Yeah, I got it now.
Okay, so last question is who would you most like to have a conversation with?
Alive?
Give me both. Give me alive and give me dead.
Okay. Well, okay. I mean, not to be repetitive, but I feel like if I were to be able to sit down with Dolly Parton, I could actually learn a lot. I feel like she's clearly like living saint. Are you just like in awe of how obsessed I am with it?
No, I'm saying if you were to sit down and talk to Dolly, you would need like a week.
I know this. You didn't put
because
a timeline
otherwise it
on
would be too intense.
I mean, I just think that like the way she cares for people and the way that she treats like humanity, you know, the way that she takes care of people and the way that she sees herself within all of that, like I think there have been, obviously nowadays there are a few criticisms about how she deals with stuff because she refuses to like enter into a political conversation and she refuses to comment on certain things that are obviously very egregious and terrible. But what I've learned, and probably specifically from going to that concert, is that without speaking to that directly, she has an opportunity to put all these people in the same place at the same time and treat each other well. And she gives you the opportunity to find what you have in common with people that are dissimilar to you. And if she were to outwardly state her opinion, if you want to know her opinion on how to treat people in politics, just listen to her songs because she says all of that. And she's like, obviously, she cares about women's rights. She cares about...
Of course. She said everything she feels. People just don't listen. And they want her to say it. If you listen to her music
and you don't understand how she feels, then that's on you. If you need her to explicitly say it, then you're not listening to her music.
Yes, I think in this country, we ask people questions because we want to hear them answer it the way that we want to receive it.
Yes.
As opposed to accepting that and being able to decide from that. Now, let me tell you, all of those things you said about her is great. The artist, the musician, is bar none. She is, without question, the girl.
Absolute musical genius.
Genius.
Yeah. She wrote like Jolene and I Will Always Love You in like a car ride home. Like she's got it, like the creativity, the like inspiration is just kind of pouring out of her at all times. And like to have that level of like skill and also carry that level of like empathy and caring for people, and like to have the privilege that she now has. Obviously she didn't grow up with that, but to still be able to like care for people around her, she's someone to look up to, I think.
She's a boss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we talked about this at first. You have an all-girl band. I love how women who are strong enough, who are talented enough, who are equal, decide that they're going to make their own lane and not allow anyone else to determine their lane. I think that is one of the things that I admire most about her is no, she did it her way.
Yeah. It's,
and
in also a field that was completely dominated by white men too, you know, like country music. You want like,
yeah.
I mean, like I think obviously, I mean, there just aren't that many either people of color or women in our field, you know. It's just the truth of the matter. And I have like kind of reacted to that in a way that like we've been trying more and more to get like young women and young girls like either like in undersourced communities or just like young and not and impressionable like into our shop to just serve as an example, just so that you can like increase the visibility and just see a person that looks like you doing something that you might have not even considered because it was never an option. Like I would have never in a million years gone to the wood shop in my high school because it was just kind of like a bunch of white burnouts like biding their time, you know. Like it wouldn't have even occurred to me. But if like if the instructor was a woman, or if like I never had that sort of like mentorship. I never had that sort of like exposure. So, I mean, not to, if I could do that for just like a couple young women, or like just, it would make me so happy. That's like the goal, you know, like I want to make the things that I've done easier for the next person.
Absolutely. Now, the comments. Jay Henny, my friend Ava Devon is exactly the same. Yes, she made her own path. God bless me. Silver River Chairs. Girl, we're going to have our own conversation. Sometimes 30 is so much more than, there's so much more than 30 minutes I want to hear. You're absolutely right.
I know. Silver River Chairs and I have like we have an Instagram romance. So thank you for all of that. I'm seeing all of your comments, and I saw that you asked before about the Elizabeth Warren thing. So I'll try to touch on that a little bit.
Let's go. You can.
Okay. So the Elizabeth Warren thing came to us. For those who don't know, we were privileged enough to design a podium for Elizabeth Warren's Washington Square Park speech. So when she was still running as a candidate, and it was the massive and amazing Triangle Shirtwaist Factory speech that she gave regarding like all of the women's rights and the workers' rights issues. So we were approached by members of her campaign because I was a donor to the campaign. Like nothing, I think I had donated like $20, but they had found me because they were looking for a local woodworker, and they found me, saw that I was a small donor, and asked if I would want to do this. And I was just like,
that damn $20.
Yeah, yeah, I know, seriously. I was like, wow. That's the most effective $20 I've ever spent. Ever. So, but they had this beautiful concept for it. So they had gotten all of this, lumber from Frances Perkins' homestead. She was the first Secretary of Labor. She was the first female in a presidential cabinet ever. So she basically made the New Deal. She's the one that made like women's rights in the workplace. She's the one that made like union rights and workers' rights. She did so much for people, especially for blue collar workers who now like require unions and like protections at their workplace. So they had this lumber and they provided us with it, and it was like, it had been outside and rotting, and like it was not great. So it was maybe like an inch thick, and I had to mill it to like a quarter, maybe less. So it was like really this kind of like beautiful veneer that we got to like hug the podium in. But it was a beautiful challenge. We only had 1 week to do it.
Of course.
And so I wanted to design something that was pretty impactful in a way that like kind of made reference to history. So the base of it was styled after a suffragette soapbox. So it had like the Frances Perkins lumber all around, and it was something that emulated that sort of soapbox effect. And then the central column was this kind of like ionic pillar almost. It was a coopered pillar, but it also had this very presidential feel. And I wanted the top to emulate a sort of writing desk, the kind of classical writing desk. So we, just because our thing was weaving, we made a little cabinet door in the back that was woven with a E and a W on it. So you could see it. It was abstracted, so it wasn't like trashy. It was just like this kind of W symbol. And we would send them pictures throughout the week, and they really loved it. And like kind of halfway through the week, they asked, it was a surprise for her, so she was unaware that this was happening. They asked if it could be separated at different parts in order to be in order to travel with her, because she usually had kind of informal town halls, but for any formal speech she gave, she wanted to use the podium. So we made it so that the writing desk came apart from the column, came apart from the suffragette soapbox. And we had like threaded inserts in the whole thing so it could be removed. And we had to explain to the union guys that were setting everything up, how it went, and just what bolts to hang on to and how it was assembled. But it was fairly simple. And yeah, they kept us on. We got to meet Frances Perkins' grandson at the end of her speech. We got to meet Elizabeth Warren at the end of her speech. And I mean, she was just, I felt like she was as in awe with us as we were with her, because we were like an all-female team making this thing. And it was the surprise for her that had all this meaning. And she was talking about how she was like grabbing the podium when she was speaking and actually felt that like, I really liked that, especially because like my background is in art. So when you can create this object that kind of comes in a circle and the materials reference the concept of the piece, it was really beautiful and satisfying for me. And she was my candidate of choice, but I'm transfer that enthusiasm. So
yes, that we need to do.
Yes, but it was the highlight of everything that we've done this far, and she is absolutely a spectacular person. So that was wonderful.
Yeah, we can't take our ball and go home. We got to stay on the court and play.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm there.
No.
I know the game.
So, okay, let's get into your journey.
Sure. What do you want to know?
How'd you get into this?
So yeah, my background is in sculpture. I went to Massachusetts College of Art and majored in printmaking and sculpture. So
do you do much more printmaking?
I don't anymore, but the printmaking I focused on was silkscreen. So I would silkscreen on like kind of less common materials like stretchy materials or fabric, or if I was silkscreening onto paper, I would cut it up and create these like sculptural things. And they were very geometric things that I would make. They were very geometric, very inspired by like kind of Museum of Natural History, kind of like the gem room, how these natural gems and minerals that kind of grew off of each other. And I would make these upholstered, like heavily decorative and upholstered like shipping crates. So I was kind of on the cusp of making furniture when I was there and experimenting with these like objects and kind of like the utility of the object. But I did feel a bit out of place. I felt like I was experimenting in function and aesthetics, whereas a lot of people were experimenting with concept. And for me, the concept was way less interesting than the process. I'm very process driven, and I really, really love working around like visual stimulation rather than conceptual stimulation. So I left and worked as a fabricator in New York for several years for an artist. So I learned like welding and how to use a laser cutter, some woodworking skills, and mold making and casting. I learned a lot of different techniques. And Kind of fell in love with woodworking while I was just I was like, I know how to build things. I've been working here for so long and I need a coffee table. So I started building this coffee table, and like all of the other things just kind of left my mind. And I was so excited. Like we were talking about baking and kind of the chemistry of it. Like I was excited about the chemistry and the science behind woodworking. I was excited by the material itself. I loved the smell of it. I even loved being dirty at the end of the day. I loved every aspect of it. So I kind of hunted around and eventually found a friend's recommended the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship to me in Maine. And after looking into it, it was just like the most amazing fit, because rather than a woodworking school that's based on reproduction as a learning tool, it was invention and design as a learning tool. So they would give you an assignment where you had to check certain boxes, but you were allowed to design whatever you want. There was a very heavy emphasis on design, which I kind of needed, because there's a lot of schools that just say, like, here's a complex piece of historical furniture. We're going to need you to reverse engineer it and make one of these. And I didn't have much interest in that. So I lucked out by finding this place. They put a heavy emphasis on design. So I was kind of free to play. I remember regularly I would ask them if something would work, like the instructors, and they would be like, I don't know, try it. So I was just like, okay. And I think I got the impression they were just as stimulated by us as we were by them, because we didn't understand limitations really at that point. So we were kind of trying things and like stress testing things that like they hadn't seen before. And it was really exciting to kind of work within those parameters. And I kind of, after that, I started like showing my work in smaller trade shows. And then as I got a little bit farther along, I was able to hire Sally part-time. She came on pretty early on, so I was an absolute mess, and she helped like
sorted you right out.
Yeah, she probably wasn't long after she had worked for you. And but I kind of loved that I have a couple assistants now, and Sally's background is primarily in ceramics, and then my other assistant Kathleen's background is in theater production. So, and I don't mind that diverse background. I really actually love that, because it's more of a like material curiosity that I'm looking for. It's more like this wanting to create stuff, this wanting to like work with your hands and figure out these techniques. And it's been how did the crazy weaving come into it? I love Danish furniture. I love shaker furniture, and I love Danish furniture, but I'm always looking at those pieces, and they're so limiting as far as color and patterning. And so I started experimenting with different materials and different techniques. So I found a little bit of crochet and a little bit of macrame, and changed from the paper Danish cord, to a cotton cord, so I could make these kind of hairpin turns and kind of request a little bit more from the cord, a little more strength, a little more longevity to it. I think the weaving came in because I can't really sit with one technique. I kind of have to try lots of things. And right now we have this beautiful kind of thing where we have the wood shop, and I'm able to be dirty, dusty, make all of this stuff in the wood shop, and then I'm able to like have kind of quieter weaving days, like where we are now in my weaving studio. So I really like that, like kind of transition of technique and keeping myself stimulated and not like doing one kind of repetitive task over another. So it's just the material curiosity that made me want to try weaving, and I love it. It's kind of meditative at this point, and it's a much like quieter, cleaner side of the practice. So
how did you learn it?
YouTube and a series of books. And I know you spoke with Sidecar Furniture. I early on got in touch with him, and he was so sweet and recommended a lot of books and pointed me in a direction. And that's kind of when I knew that this was a really good environment for me to be in, because it's such a community and
Yes.
it's so welcoming. I also feel like the art world, I think, is pretty cutthroat. You know, there's a limited amount of space for everybody. Like, in order to make it as an artist, you have to have a series of collectors who are willing to spend a certain amount of money on work, and that's very difficult. And you can go out of trend and you can get reviewed poorly, and then you're just not in that world anymore. Versus the furniture world, if you make something that people don't like, they're not gonna review you poorly. They're just not gonna buy it.
Yeah,
And
we just don't like it, right?
yeah, and there's so much room for us because technically we have way more opportunities for clients. So there's no real cutthroat. It's more of a community of information sharing, and it's it's just such a friendly and positive environment that I knew it was a much better fit. So I'm really happy, and especially in New York, because like obviously there's way more community studios because of the expense of everything. So
Because it's New
that
York.
yeah, exactly. And it's just, I love it that way because I love working alongside of people. There's always lots of different ways and techniques to do any one thing. So like kind of looking over people's shoulders and asking other people's advice. It's such, for me, it's a very community based activity. And it was never this kind of like alone in a shack sort of like carving stuff thing. I love that part about it. And that kind of is what made me fall in love, honestly.
Yeah, David Johnson is a really good guy.
Yeah.
He's the boss. And also, I want to say that Silver River recommended you to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. We have to, yeah, like I said, we just have an internet romance. We've never actually met before, but we're always commenting on each other's stuff. So that's
Yeah.
so much appreciated.
She was like, I'm a cheer nerd. I got a whole bunch of people you need to see. I'm like, bring them on.
Oh, I'm so glad. I so appreciate that. So thank you.
Yep. Yeah. She's big time cool.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet.
So when you started, I guess I kind of want to nerd out about the weaving, right? When you got into the weaving, there was the normal things that people used.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what you started with.
Yeah.
At what point in doing that did you realize maybe I want to do something else? Because in order for you to take all of these different turns, you have to be educated about what was there. So,
right. But that's kind of something that I've understood. Like, I think printmaking, being a printmaker, as much as I don't really do that as much anymore, but it definitely taught me there's like, you have to understand the methods before you start producing something. You really have to understand. It's very process based. So it kind of put me in the headset that if you're going to learn how to do something, you have to start from square one and work up to that. And your technique is not going to be at the level that your creativity is. So I think the struggle is not getting frustrated and abandoning it when it doesn't look like it did in your head. So I think that having printmaking be so labor intensive and so process heavy kind of prepped me for, it's a long road to learn something and how to do something well. I also really love working with my hands in any capacity. So I was very excited to learn these different weaving techniques. So I did shaker rush, Danish cord, caning, and shaker tape as well. And I loved them all, but I got this book recommended from David at Sidecar, and it's called the Chair Caner's Handbook. And
yep, that's what he recommended.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's an amazing book, and it like gives you very good like verbal and pictorial descriptions of what you're about to tackle. But all of the patterning that was offered in Danish cord is it's simple herringbone. It's just couldn't be more basic. And I looked online and there wasn't anything beyond that. There's the most basic of patterns. And I was curious as to why. Oh, hi, Alex. Alex is also one of my weaving assistants. So good timing.
What's up, Alex?
So I was working with that, but I realized that it was a material limitation that won't let you get more like complex patterns, because you can't really stretch or make a hairpin turn with a paper cord. It doesn't really allow for that sort of stress on the material. So I realized that if you could substitute that material, use the same technique, but substitute that material for something that's a little more durable. So I started looking elsewhere and like looking at different types of cord, and that led me down into like a more kind of craft, macrame, and crochet area. So I would watch a bunch of YouTube videos that had to do with like kind of crocheting and macrameing onto a frame, onto some sort of framework. And that offered like such variety as far as what you could do color wise, patterning wise. And the thing that interests me about all this is like the patterning. If I'm selling something, even if it's a set of chairs, and I can convince the client that they want to do a diverse array of patterning, then that's the sweet spot, you know. I don't want to crank out the same pattern, like in the same way that it's nice to do more custom stuff because you're not looking at the same thing all the time. Like I like to keep my brain stimulated and come up with lots of different patterns, and so that's always like fun and challenging for us. Whenever anyone asks for something, we're always happy to customize the pattern and even make something that fits like their wallpaper or like some concept that they had in their head. So that's really like to keep me stimulated and to keep me excited about the work, because if you're making the same series of work, it can get tired, you know. And this is just such an exciting way to like really customize something for someone and create variety in the same sort of pieces.
Okay, cool. Where do you want to go next?
Ooh. Right now I'm in a position where we have a lot of stuff that we've designed that I really love, and we are kind of filling orders based on that stuff. I would love to have like a more regularly like creative exploration like time, you know. Like right now I'm kind of like filling orders, producing them, very exciting. The variety occurs within the patterning, and part of that is practical. I don't want to oversaturate like our collection with a lot of different things, you know. But like as I mentioned, I'm like very stimulated by playing around in the studio, playing around in the shop, you know, putting things together, gluing them up, smashing them, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And if I could have more time to do that, that would be really great. So I'm kind of my goal is to kind of carry a more creative, like the creative director position within my company, to try to like give myself more time to really play around with stuff and be creative, because that's when I'm happiest in the shop, you know, when I'm like making a mess and making something that who knows what it'll become. Like happy accidents happen there, and it's just such an exciting place to be. So I think if I could find more time for that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, that's the tough part about running a business.
I know. Finding that time for play, you know, because that's what makes like you be able to endure all the crummy parts that are like filing taxes and stuff.
Oh my God, yes. All that stuff that has to get done.
Ugh,
and that none of us like doing.
No. And I thought maybe I would develop the brain for it, but it's simply refusing to get there. So
can we get a tour?
Necessary evil. It's a necessary evil. I understand that, and I'm getting there. You know, like I can see the benefit from it, because I can see if I can like understand by looking at like past, if I can actually analyze this information that I'm being given, then I can be a better maker. I can be a better like creative director for this company. So I just have to kind of like take stock of that, understand it's a necessary evil, and just like head down, power through.
Okay, with Sally and Alex.
Sally, Alex, and Catherine.
Okay. Do all of you all share in on doing the work, or is that mostly you?
Yes. So, well, it's changed a little bit in COVID, which has been kind of nice because I've made sure that everyone knows how to weave. So if we bottleneck with weaving, any of us can jump on and kind of push stuff through. That also makes it better if we're doing a larger scale jobs, which we've started kind of doing. Like the only place that you can't really rush is the weaving because you can do it as fast as you humanly can and it's still going to take a bit. So that's something that I want to make sure we all know how to do so we can help each other and hop on something. So so Sally is officially studio manager. Catherine is sales and marketing manager. And Alex is our weaver. So we all can jump on that sort of thing. Sally is also the finisher. Sally does our finish work and fabricator and design assistant as well. So so yeah, I have help. The design assistance has been new, but that's been something I'm really happy to get help, especially with Sally from, because her brain is a diamond, and
Yep.
I love to see what she comes up with. And we have a similar like visual language, which is super exciting. But yeah, everyone contributes creatively for sure. I'm regularly asking them like to weave their own patterns, come up with patterns. I think that's really exciting. Everyone really loves to work with their hands. So if I can give that to them, and like, especially now, I've been just like, we'll be driving around with the car and dropping off pieces for people to weave at home. And it's just, we've found ways to make it work, you know? And
Beautiful.
yeah.
So how did it come about that you decided to have an all-girl shop?
Well, I mean, I have to say the first person I hired was a female, but I think that it was important to me just seeing the kind of difficulty I had just landing on a lumber yard. Like I would walk into a place and immediately know if it was going to work or not. You know, I would either be mistreated severely or I would be like a curiosity. And I was willing to deal with the people who thought I was a curiosity because I could then maybe explain to them that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm worth their time. I could tell right away when I was just going to be condescended and treated poorly. And I thought it would be a lot more difficult to have a conversation with an assistant if they didn't understand what we went through when we had to try to even walk into a hardware store, you know? So I thought initially that it was like, we could all be on the same page. And I think there was strength in numbers. If people saw two of us, I think they would understand that, you know, we're part of a business and that we have something, we clearly have something that's working that we need assistance with. So it started like that. And then I realized that if we have this kind of like just very simple stipulation where we're just hiring women, which is so funny because it's like the Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote, you know, it's like, I mean, you've all had 12 just male justices for forever, and the second, like, how many women is enough when they're all female? Like, we've had all male forever, you know? So I just wanted to give this a shot, and like, and there is very literally no reason that women are not in this field. Women or people of color for that matter, I'm very confused about that. I mean, I think like maybe creative fields are a bit more luxury occupations, so I think that might be an obstacle. But that being said, like more recently, especially because of all of the like protests and things that have been going on this year, I'm very well aware that I've also been like doing insular hiring, where I'll take recommendations of friends from like who we're going to like look at, and that I think that's great, but it also doesn't provide us with many people who are outside of our own bubble and experience. So
yeah, yes, I went to, I'm not gonna say any names.
Yeah.
I went to a shop. And I'm not gonna say the kind of shop it was because it would say who it was.
Yeah.
And the shop was kick butt. And it was all women. And it was all gay white women.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
Where the black gay girls at? Where the Spanish gay girls at?
Yeah.
They can be up in here.
Yeah.
But again, I think a lot of it points to access and opportunity.
For sure.
Like you said, those girls are hiring their friends that they hang out with.
Their friends. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. They're hiring from their own community, which is great, especially because that community is not very represented in this field. But also, you're kind of cutting yourself off at the knees and kind of doing exactly what you don't want to do. And I've only recently had my eyes open to this, you know, so I'm not like, I'm saying something that I haven't been, I'm you know, not yet practicing what I'm preaching here, but like I am now very aware that that's the case. And going forward, like I want to figure out how to adjust that, because there's lots of different versions of women, you know.
Yes,
if that is my qualification for who I'm looking to hire and who I'm looking to work alongside, then I have to look at the full spectrum of women.
Now, with that being said, me being a man,
yes,
an American man,
yes,
my interests have pushed me more toward white men.
yes.
So you just explained why you walk in places and it's all white men.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
yeah, that's why. No one is necessarily saying you can't come in. Everyone hires someone that looks like them, that acts like them, that they're comfortable with.
Totally.
And not enough of us are making the effort to bring in someone different.
Yeah, and to also, once you've stepped up onto that block, to pull someone up alongside you, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I am hiring women. I am hiring diverse women, but like I could do better. I know I could do better. And
well, you're gonna get bigger and you have time.
Yeah. But that's something that I think is very important. And that's like part of the efforts to like kind of exposing the younger girls to this sort of occupation and this sort of skill set is important to me, because without that sort of background and without that sort of awareness, I don't think that that's going to happen as much in the future. So with like what you're doing with these conversations, and what I hope to do by inviting people into the shop, or doing talks, doing lectures, going to schools, going to like different organizations to absolutely, I see what about trans women. That's what I mean when I'm talking about there's a full spectrum of what is a woman. And because of the way that we hire, because it's insular, like I've just been unable to reach a certain audience, and we're consciously doing something about that. And but like almost more importantly, because I'm not constantly hiring, you know, this isn't something that I can constantly like work on. So like what you're saying, what I'm trying to work on in the interim when we're not hiring is just reach these people in some other way. So like let you know what my experience was and how it is possible to pursue this sort of career and what it would take. Because without like with just going blindly into it is very, very difficult. And I went blindly into it, but I'm a white woman operating in society, and I had a lot of advantages because of that. So without those sort of advantages, it looks really impossible. So I'm aware that my advice is coming from that like white female perspective, but if I can just illuminate some of the mysteries of this, then I think it will be beneficial down the road.
Yeah, we talk about getting other people involved. And some people point to education and starting in high school, but hell, how many of us did this in high school? None of us. For most of us, this was an alternative job.
Yes.
It's an alternative field. We were adults doing something, and we decided to dive into something else, which is this.
Yes.
And that to be the same thing for other people, women and people of color.
Yes.
It's an alternative. It's something else.
Yeah, it is. But you know early on if you're a creatively minded person and if you have the intent to make things with your hands. But a lot of people don't know how to exercise that and are like find the outlet for it, you know, and that's super complicated. And like I mentioned earlier, I went to art school. That's such a luxury, you know. That's like,
Yes.
I mean, I went to a state art school, so I got to go for free, which is amazing because Mass Art, the college I went to, is the only public art school in the entire country, which is a shame. But that's the whole reason I got to go is because it was affordable. I couldn't have afforded to go to like a private art school. It wasn't an option. So having that form of understanding, I actually just spoke with Artists for Humanity in Boston, which is a bunch of younger kids growing up in the area that know they want to pursue some sort of artistic or design-based career, and they're trying to find like the avenues to do that. So having that conversation was really important because that was a bunch of women, a bunch of kids of color, and I was just trying to like show like I took a very circuitous way to this career. It wasn't like I had another career path in mind. I went to school for something else, and this is where I landed. It's not impossible. It's just you just got to find it the way you're going to find it. And if I can illuminate any part of that journey, then I'm happy to help. So I think that in the interim, while I'm trying to like adjust our hiring practices, I'm really trying to like change the visibility about this and change like, or at least offer some form of mentorship to kids that know they want to do this, but don't know how to do it.
Yep. Yeah. Access and opportunity.
For sure.
Okay. So how likely is a tour?
Oh, it's good. You're plugged in right now. I have to tell you, it's absolutely messy because I thought it was just going to be
We've been warned.
This clever backdrop that I selected, but let me see here. Okay, so we got
What's
that.
up?
You might have seen him. He's so these are all this is a group of limited edition benches that Sally, Catherine, and I wove, all designed new patterns for. So
wow.
we don't usually have an inventory of work, but because we were able to weave a bunch of these in quarantine and tried out different colors and patterning, we thought it was a good opportunity to kind of like release them and show people what we can do.
Okay, a little more to the right. Okay, wait a second.
Yep.
Are those cats in the window? Are those okay, got it. I was like, girl, how many cats you got?
This is the real one. This is the fake one.
Got it.
Although I do have two, to be totally honest, I do have two cats.
I got one.
So then over here we have some sample weaving frames because we've realized that we have so many different pattern offerings that it's sometimes hard to show people different options and what they can get. So we're weaving these like sample patterns that are going to be able to kind of just show a variety of our options.
Very
Sorry,
nice.
he's going to follow. This is his thing. He's going to follow me wherever I go. And then we're working on these. These are all woven in an outdoor nylon cord, so it's outdoor suitable. It's rot and mildew proof, which is different than our cotton. So we do switch up the color if we're weaving in cotton. So these are a little bit more of those custom benches that we have. And this is my sloppy.
Okay, so let me ask you, Kate.
Yes.
How much do you mind saying how much those benches go for?
Yes, those benches I believe they're $2,500 at the moment. So these are ready made, obviously, but we do have obviously here's a couple that are waiting to be woven, so we can customize just about anything. And we can make oh yay, Edgewood joined. So Edgewood is our wood fabricator in Philadelphia who made all of these frames for us and did all the finish work on these frames.
What's up, Edgewood?
So we're so excited to be working with them because they've just helped us out immensely, especially through quarantine when we haven't been able to get into our shop. So we've also been trying out like different powder coat colors, and both of these are woven in outdoor nylon as well. So you can
Very
kind of
nice.
see a bit of the difference, but we have just like, we got a lot of cord. And a lot of variety to kind of choose from. And we're always like kind of messing around with different patterning and that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of like nice material samples in here that are like different stone samples and marble samples.
Wow.
So yeah, we're definitely keeping busy. I'm embarrassed at what Sally's going to be like, horrified at the state of the studio right now. But yeah, it's nice to have this because we're lucky enough to have this space where we can kind of weave and keep things separate from the wood shop so it doesn't get dusty and accumulate.
Yeah, you couldn't do that
like
in the wood shop.
Yeah, no. So, and plus it's nice for me to keep stimulated and do like 2 separate practices and just keep that stuff going.
Yep,
yeah.
To separate. Yeah. Edgewood, we need to get you on here.
Yeah, absolutely. You do need to talk to them. They're super talented. They have an amazingly vast shop in
very diverse.
And they're both ceramic studio and a woodworking studio. So they're super versatile and yeah, amazing people.
Absolutely. So we have 10 minutes.
Okay.
What is it you would like to talk about? What is it you would like to tell us more about you, your company, your process?
I think the thing that I like to talk about the most, I think like the thing that we touched on a little bit earlier, and I kind of like to hear a little bit from you if you feel similarly, is the kind of, I mean, I'm only familiar with the woodworking community here in New York, but I've just been so excited to be a part of this community. I've like found a bunch of friends, especially through the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine. Like if you've gone to that school, you have like this immediate community because there's a lot of us in Brooklyn and a lot of us in New York. But I've just been so like delightfully surprised by the support and excitement within the community. I mean, like doing this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I'm just always like, there's no one like kind of coveting their own technique and not talking to people about it. Like I've never had that experience. I've only had this experience of people wanting to share and do information share and be really open with their processes and techniques. I mean, David from Sidecar is just like the I don't know if he knows how much that meant to me, that he was so responsive to me at such an early time when I was getting into this. But I think because of that, I've been really, and Justin Kramer, who keeps commenting too. He has been I've been able to teach with him at a school in New Hampshire called Yestermorrow. And it's just, I've just met such wonderful people, such kind people, who are so into the community about it. And it's affected me so positively. And the just technique sharing has made me like always respond very positively when someone reaches out and asks if we can like talk about how to do it, how to quit your job, how to start doing this, because it's a very scary leap. And
very.
Yeah.
And as you know, it doesn't get any less scary.
No, and it's not a get rich scheme by any means, It's like you have to really love it. But like
it's a trap.
It's a real trap. We make it look real romantic and real sexy on the outside.
Exactly.
We lure you in.
Now, let me give you my part on that.
Yeah.
When I first started this, because I was a Black man, I didn't try to become a part of any community.
Yeah.
I put myself in this little bubble.
Sure.
I worked at Four Seasons Hotel for 20 years. I had this nice job that paid decent money. Mm-hmm. And that was able to finance this curiosity that I had. So I got this saw, I had this yard way before, 14 years ago.
Yep.
So way before it was a thing in the city and way before I knew anyone else. And even like 5 years after that, I was upstate, I came here. I was in been in Hartsdale for 8 years. And even when I went there, I was still in a bubble. And now, just because of me doing this, I've come out the bubble. I've never really worried about relationships because I thought I didn't need them.
Yeah.
I did my own thing. I blew my own number. I did it my own self. I had my own clients. I did it.
Yeah.
And I'm here, right, with this enormous amount of wood. And I did it according to my plan. And I'm like, you know what? I should be sharing this with more people. And the only reason I wasn't is because I didn't make an effort to.
Sure. I mean, yes, but as you said, it's difficult. Like, it was difficult for me. I think that what I was mentioning earlier about David being so important to like respond to me so well was that he wasn't condescending. He didn't question my skill set coming to him. Like,
And that's why I
people
stayed in the bubble. That's why I stayed in the bubble.
Exactly. Because that's a serious risk. And I'm a pretty social, outgoing person. So like, so I have that as an advantage, but it is very, it's unbelievably intimidating to walk into a shop filled with men and attempt to hold your own. And I'm sure you feel similarly when you're walking into when you know you're entering into a field that is not your demo, and you're just trying to hold your own. And for me, I try to do even better. It's like I strive to make it better because I'm like, I have to show you not only can I hang, but I can do better than you.
Yep.
And that's my own kind of like, competitiveness, but it is difficult. It's a very scary and intimidating thing to like be the only you in an environment. And
now, okay, you're correct, right? Just imagine living your entire life like that.
Oh yes, I don't doubt that.
And that's why I asked the question about Black friends, because that's where the caring starts. Mm-hmm. When you have a friend that you know and care about, then you can have empathy, then you can sympathize, then you can understand, then you can talk to. And it makes it a little bit different. And when you don't have any friends, you don't have anyone there, you're removed from it.
Oh, or you're relying on stereotype or entertainment to get your information about an entire group of people, which is so dangerous. And that's where we've found ourselves right here and now.
Yes.
Like, exactly. I mean, I definitely grew up in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and that was extremely white. It's extremely white. We barely had any diversity. We had maybe like 5 kids of color in my whole high school. It was not. And then I moved to Boston. So if you want to talk about a segregated city, like, let's talk Boston. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of exposure to it, and it's to diversity, and that's no excuse at all. But like, you kind of like, once you do have that exposure, and once you do make friends that don't look like you or have the same background as you, it just like demystifies the entire thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that is so very important. And like, I mean, I'm trying to take a positive spin on where we are right now, but if I'm doing that, it's like illuminating all of the areas that I can grow in, and I can make myself a little more uncomfortable and like place myself somewhere where I can grow from it and not like stay stagnant and just stay unaware and uninformed. So yeah, it's a serious.
Yeah, no, I want to talk more about the community, but Jeff asked the question, do females have egos like males?
No.
Baloney, no. But we're not going to go there. Of course they got egos.
Oh, we have egos, but are they like males? No.
Yeah, right. Maybe not as equal, but I'm sure.
we're
Because
not as showboaty, and we don't have to flaunt it as much. Do we have
okay,
egos? Absolutely. Like,
all right, I'll give you that.
and more importantly, like I feel my ego less when I'm feeling good and more when it's hurt, you know? Like, I don't really have to project it when I'm feeling good. When I like something that I'm doing, that's when I feel like just self-satisfied a little bit more. But like, if I'm hurt, if my ego has been hurt, if I've been like wounded in some way, that's when I really take it to heart, and that's when I really feel
Got
it.
it. All right. So let me tell you, through my doing 90 of these, through the research that I've gotten and what I've learned from this, there are different crews or sets of groups kind of based on what you do and where you are. So the cheermakers, in my opinion, have been the most fun to have conversations with. And that's because the cheermakers kind of congregate.
Yep.
If one cheermaker's on, the other ones get on, and then it goes. I've also noticed now when I say cheermakers, let me qualify that. The Tennessee, Kentucky kind of guys.
Sure.
The Weavers hang.
Yeah, we do.
They float together. The West Coast people, they float together.
Totally.
So
we're freaky like that.
So it's kind of fun and funny to watch the different people and the different things, how people kind of follow and support each other.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I've also noticed that, like, I mean, something as simple as being a next door neighbor to someone at a trade show, you know, like that'll create this sort of like bond that you then like kind of have, you know. It's definitely, it's like what you do in proximity to who, I think, you know. And that's what's nice about New York is proximity. Everyone's on top of each other. So proximity, you have a lot of options as far as like friend groups and that sort of thing. But I feel like the regularly curious people kind of find each other and they want to talk shop, and it's just, I mean, yeah, we can get deep and nerdy into it, but I love that. I love that community because I'm always at a moment's notice ready to talk shop. When I find someone that like wants to just like dig deep, like when I was teaching myself how to weave, I'd be watching these 1.5 hour long videos of an old white man alone in a shop just slowly weaving a chair, and everyone thought I was absolutely insane. But I was like, are you kidding? This is the greatest thing I've ever watched.
And the people who don't get it.
Yes, exactly. And I've shared that with like a couple people, and they've been like, oh, absolutely. Oh, I love those videos. So I know that I have a crew. I have like this herd of people that we're able to like run with, and just like, but it's also this like, I don't know. I think chair people get along because I think there is like chairs. I have this whole thing with chairs. I've designed a few chairs. Chairs are the big one, you know. Chairs have been around forever. So where you're reinventing the chair, like Jesus Christ, that's heavy, you know. That's a big thing to attempt. And I think like because you're entering into this super challenging, like a literal reinvention of the wheel, you know, it's talking about ego. It is an egotistical thing to try to redesign a chair. There have been so many chairs. There are so many variations on it.
I need to pause you, right?
Yeah.
Silver River just did it.
Yes.
We got 57 seconds.
Okay.
And I'm not going to keep you 3 hours. Two is good, and Silver River, you're just going to have to deal with it.
It's okay. We'll talk after. Silver River, we can talk after.
Yes. You can go in your DM and you can.
We can take our friendship offline.
And you can video chat.
Exactly.
So thank you very much. You're very talented. Thank you. You're an inspiration, and I appreciate it.
Oh,
John Jordan,
thank
you for tuning in.
I'm so excited to have expanded my friendship circle onto you. So
Absolutely.
let's
Yep.
stay in touch.
We shall. Thank you very much, Kate. Have a
Thank
great
you
night,
so
and
much,
thanks for
Robert.
everybody for tuning in.
Thank
And
you.
John, you're right. Dolly has a lot more. I mean, Elizabeth has a lot more work to do, and we need to help her. The fight just started.